Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is Duana and I'm back with another sew along, this time for my Dani pattern. The Dani pattern includes 3 views: view A, the vest; view B, the dress; and view C, the romper. And this sew along is going to be view A, the vest. I've worn it several times already. I absolutely love it. I think it's very classy, very chic. I will have to say, out of all 3 views, I think overall, the vest is my favorite. Now, between the dress and the romper is definitely my favorite. I love all 3 of them, but I remember when I made it, I was just like, oh, this looks so good. Oh, this looks so good. Ah, this looks so good. I'm just excited to share this pattern. This pattern has been one that I have been working on for quite a bit. And then I got pregnant and had my baby. And so I haven't had time to get back to it. And now I'm back to it and I'm ready to share the sew along for it. So without further ado, let's get started on the sew along for the Dani pattern, view A, the vest. All right, let's start with the pattern pieces. This is pattern piece 1A. This is the front, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of lining. This is pattern piece 2A. This is the side front, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of lining. Pattern piece 3A. This is the side back, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of lining. This is pattern piece 4A. This is the back, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric, 2 of lining. Pattern piece number 7. This is the collar, and you're going to cut 4 of contrast and 2 of interfacing. This is pattern piece number 8. This is the welt pocket, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric. And lastly, this is pattern piece 9. This is the welt interfacing, and you're going to cut 2 of interfacing. All right, so let's cut this. All right, let's take a look at the materials. We're going to need our main fabric, and then we're going to need lining, contrast for the collar, a 22-inch invisible zipper, fusible interfacing, and 1/4 inch buttons. All right, let's take a look at the pattern piece out and get started. First, you're going to start by stay stitching the raw edges of the bust and the waist of the front and the side front. Now, with right sides together and matching notches, pin together the front and side front, having more pins concentrated around the curve of the bust. Now take it to your sewing machine and sew together. Before moving on to the next step, make sure you clip the curves at the bust and press the seams open. Now with right sides facing, you're going to stitch the newly sewn pieces at the center front, matching the notches. Now we're going to add the welt. Make sure that your markings are visible. If it's not, use a marker or a pen and make your markings. Don't worry, you will not see these markings, so it is okay to make them with a permanent marker. Now place the interfacing of the welt to the wrong side of the front vest, matching the welt pocket markings. Now you can iron it on. Now with right sides together, you're going to take the welt and you're going to pin the welt to the front of the vest, matching the welt pocket marking. Now take it to your sewing machine, and on the wrong side of the welt, you're going to stitch the welt pocket markings and reinforce the corners. So now you're going to trim and cut the center and side markings. Get as close to the corner of the stitch line as you can without cutting through the stitch line. The closer, the better. Using your iron, you're going to press the welt downward on the upper seam and upwards on the lower seam. So it should look like this when you're done. Now you're going to push the welt pocket through the cut you just made. Turn it over so the wrong side of the front vest is facing up. You're going to need your iron again, and you're going to give this a good press. So now take a portion of the welt that is underneath the lower seam, and you're going to fold it up so that the fold meets the top of the welt pocket. Use pins to hold it in place, and then you're going to press it flat. Once it's pressed, you can turn it over to the right side, and this is what it should look like. Flip the bottom of the vest to the top of the front, and at the bottom of the pocket, you're going to pin and then sew the seam allowance. Fold up the pocket to the top edge. Use pins or clips to hold it in place. You're going to stitch the sides of the pocket, catching the triangles, and sew around straight across the top. Now your welt pockets are done. Now let's move on to the back. With right sides facing and matching notches, stitch the side back and back together. Make sure to press those seams open. All right, now bring back the front, and with right sides facing and matching notches, you're going to stitch the back and the front together at the shoulders. Don't forget to press the seams open. Now you're going to stay stitch the neckline. Once you're done, you're going to set it aside, and we're going to start working on the collar. Here's the collar pieces. So I decided to not use the typical contrast fabric. This is more of a lace, so I did not use interfacing. In most cases, you probably should use interfacing if you want a sturdy collar or if you're using a stretch fabric. But because I'm using lace, I chose to avoid the interfacing. But I do recommend lace as an option for the collar. I think it looks so chic and so classy. So with the collar, right sides facing, you're going to sew it together. You want to leave the inside of the collar untouched. And when you are done, you're going to clip the corners. Turn the collar right sides out and make sure you press it. And then you're going to understitch the collar by first pressing the seam towards the interfaced collar and top stitching. So when you're understitching, you want to make sure that you're sewing on top of the seam, and you're also sewing on the side that is not going to be seen. So now baste the raw edges together and then go ahead and grab the vest. Matching notches, you're going to pin the collar to the neckline. If you are matching correctly, your collars at the center front should overlap. Take it to your sewing machine and stitch the collar to the vest. Once you're done placing the collar, go ahead and get your zipper, and we're going to apply the zipper to the back. The recommended zipper length for all views is 22 inches. Make sure your zipper is closed for this first part. So take your zipper and mark the back along the end. This marking will line up with the bottom of the zipper placement line. This is not going to be the same line in which you start to sew. This is just to mark where the placement line is. I snip along that line just so I can make sure that I know where that placement line marking is going to be. So now open up your zipper, and on the outside of the right side of the fabric, you're going to line up the marked zipper line that we just did with the bottom of the zipper placement line. So if you don't know where that is, take a look at the pattern and you'll see where that line is. Okay, so now I pinned it in place. You can finish pinning along the placement line. Make sure your zipper teeth are along the placement line that runs straight up to the neckline. And when you get to the neckline, you should have a little bit of extra zipper at the top. And once you're done, you can go ahead and move back to the bottom of the zipper. And what I'm going to do is make my second line, and that line is going to be the line in which we are going to start sewing. As you can see, I've changed the type of foot that I use. So I'm using an invisible zipper foot. This makes sewing an invisible zipper exponentially easier. So I highly recommend that you get one. Once you're done that first side, you're going to do it again for the second side. And there are many different ways to put on an invisible zipper. This is just a way that I thought was easy and helpful for this particular pattern. So now once you're done pinning, go ahead and take it to your sewing machine and stitch. So here's what it should look like. Let me tell you, unzipping an invisible zipper is so satisfying. Look how clean that is. Okay, now close the zipper, and on the wrong side of the garment, you're going to finish the bottom where the zipper is. So you're going to push the zipper tape out of the way, and you're going to pin the rest of the back together. And now you're going to sew the rest of that seam closed. So when you take it to your sewing machine, you want to make sure that you're starting about 1/4 of an inch above the last stitch, just on the inside of the stitch line. Make sure the zipper tape is out of the way. You're going to back stitch twice and then sew the rest of the seam closed. All right, so now if you go to the back of your collar, this is the best time to add the button. So go ahead and hand stitch a 1/4 inch button to the back of the collar on the circle marking. In the same manner you stitch the outer fabric, you want to do that with the lining, and I didn't show that, but here's what it should look like when you are done. You should finish it off with the front and back together at the shoulder seams. So now you're going to pin around the entire neck edge to make sure that everything matches properly. I like to match the seams first and then work my way around. I'm going to start at the center front, and then I'm going to work my way to the back. Clip the center front until the stitching line. Do not go past the stitching line. And you can trim off any excess zipper tape. Now I'm going to understitch the lining around the collar. And this is what it should look like when you're done. Okay, so now make sure you lay the bodice flat, and then you're going to begin rolling it up towards one of the straps. The goal is to roll the bodice tightly enough that the opposite strap can be enclosed in a fabric tube. And once you reach the other side, they should be matching right sides facing, and now you can pin it together. And you'll know you're doing it correctly when you're matching the outer fabric with the lining fabric right sides together. It should look like a burrito when you're done, and you're going to stitch the armholes together. When you're done stitching it together, pull the fabric out through the tube, and you're going to repeat on the other side. All right, so go ahead and stitch the other armhole together. Once both armholes are complete, you're going to fold the bodice so the side seams align with right sides facing. So you're going to be matching the front bodice to the back bodice and the front lining to the back lining. Then you're going to stitch along the side seams. So this is what it should look like when you are done stitching. Also, make sure to press your seams open. Before moving on, make sure you understitch your lining. Okay, so you should be looking at your zipper and lining, and you're going to fold the lining center back, seam allowance under along the zipper tape. And so now you're going to pin all the way down to the bottom of the zipper, and you're going to top stitch the lining to the zipper tape. And this is what it should look like when you're done. And last but not least, we're going to hem the bottom of the vest. So with right sides facing, start with the front of the vest, and you're going to work your way all the way around the back. And so you should have a 5-inch gap or so for turning on both sides of the zipper. Okay, so now turn the vest right sides out through the gap, and then you press. Fold in the remaining unstitched part of the hem, and then you're going to top stitch around the bottom of the vest. And you are done your vest. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to tag Duana Studio in your make.